G'day viewers, welcome to another super cool repair video from the Goat Shed, located in Newcastle, New South Wales, Australia. So today is Wednesday, April 19th, 2023. It's 16 degrees Celsius outside, which equates to approximately 61 degrees Fahrenheit. So, target pool. We've been promising you a video on this for some time, and today we've decided to get going on it. So, we have the entire trip bank over there to be totally disassembled, and we're going to replace all the parts with all brand new plated parts. Now, just before we go on and show you what we're about to do, could we please remind you to consider subscribing to our channel? We'd greatly appreciate that. And always please remember to give us the big thumbs up on our videos. That helps us get more ranked with YouTube, or should I say YouTube, and we would also greatly appreciate that. Now this is going to be a pretty big job. We've got all brand new coils, or we can't remember exactly how many coils we told the guy to get, but so far we've found 10 coils. The main reason we're putting new coils in is we had to drill a lot of the old ones out. Now the reason being is that they were rusted in. You simply could not get the screws out. We tried every way we could think of to remove those screws, but we just couldn't get them out. So we had to drill them out, and we used our Dremel with a small drill on it, and that sort of done the job there. Now Graham's over there waiting to go. The first thing we're going to do is unsolder the wires off the coils, get that happening, and then we're going to start dismantling the whole unit. Now let me show you what we've got here. There's all the new parts. So we have the top plate over there, the side frames, the coil brackets, a reset bar here. It's all there. There's one of the sides there. All been plated. Looks very nice. Now this is something that you normally wouldn't have to do, but this particular machine, you'll notice that all the components are sitting on a piece of cardboard. It's been stored like that and wrapped up in plastic for probably, I don't know, very, very close to a year. We have new targets to put on. All these targets, we have brand new targets. And this is another machine that's had a playfill restoration done to it. Now we've seen photos of this playfill restoration. It looks absolutely beautiful. The owner has sent a video of it being completed just last week. We hope to have our hands on it soon. This will be a job that will be very much like the high hand we're doing, and it'll come up really, really nice. This one's had a brand new cabinet, and that's the one we've shown you in previous video of it being painted. And yesterday, while I was away Monday and Tuesday, Graham done a bit more painting, and he's almost finished the other two cabinets, which is this one, Target Pool, and the other one, which is Fast Draw. So when we get all the switches off this, we'll clean them, everything up. And this one's got black rollers on it, so you know, often you get the white rollers on the switches. They look dirty, so the black ones will still clean them, but they won't look near as bad. We'll be able to remove the coil plungers off the old bar. We'll have to put new pins in those, new roll pins. We've got some of those. I think they're 1/8 inch roll pins. And polish the the plungers. I think we've got new coil stops for it. So this mech should work pretty well. The only downside will be, will there be many broken wires? But it should be okay. We're going to systematically work through this. So, looks like Graham's got the number 8 screwdriver there, and he's going to start removing the screws out of the top of the coil brackets. There's 4 screws there, and they're the adjustments for the travel of that coil. Bear in mind, everything will look new when this goes back together. So I think he's going to look now for a magnetic tray to put the parts in. We'll just sit that magnetic tray over here and we can put all the screws in it. We may end up putting new screws in if we can get any. I always say this, it's very, very hard for us to get Imperial stuff here in Australia. Not a lot of people keep it. You still can get it, but not exactly the same. You know, those screws, you might be able to get them not with slotted screws, but Phillips head. I did manage to get some new, what are they, Allen screws a while ago. So these are all coming out reasonably easily. There's Spanky.
Get out of the way.
Spanky will have a look at this job and say, gee, why are we doing it?
Yeah, why are we doing it?
Yeah. So, what we're doing here is just all straightforward stuff. There we go, we've got the coil cases there. Now we get the 9/64th Allen key wrench and undo those. These are great, these Sid Chrome wrenches. I mentioned a little while ago about hard to get Imperial screws. There's a place not far from us, about 4 miles from the goat shed, or about 7 kilometres, and they stock a little bit of Imperial stuff, where I've actually been lucky and got quite a few things. I was just there in the store one day and they had like a clearance bin out, and they had these Imperial Allen key wrenches, and I thought, wow, I could do with those. And they're Sid Chrome, and I think they were marked down from well over $100 to about $60, so I bought them. It's so important to have the right tools. I've harped on about this before, but you know, when I was an apprentice, if you didn't use the right screwdriver and a screw and you damaged that screw, you were in trouble. You literally got a clip over your head. You can't do that now to apprentices, but that's what used to happen. Or you got a swift kick up the bum, one or the other. Imagine doing that to someone today. But that's how you're taught, and that's how you learn properly. So Graham's just getting all those out now. Well, he must have had one too many last night. Did you go to the pub last night, Graham?
Yeah, I went out with Spanky.
Oh, okay.
Never again.
Never. So there you go. You don't go out with that goat. He drinks too much. Gee, consume some pints of beer in America, I'll tell you. And you know, people, anyone from around the state of Pennsylvania would be familiar with the Yangling beer. Spanky even visited the Yangling brewery in Pottsville, PA, and he acquired a great taste for that beer.
And he's not allowed back.
Yeah, he's probably not allowed back. We got a private tour on a Sunday. How cool was that? Our own private tour with Spanky by a guy that worked there, which was really, really good. Quite fascinating to see some of the underground tunnels and things there. So that's Yangling Brewery in Pottsville, Pennsylvania. And when you're in Pottsville, you should make an effort to go and see Bingo Butch. There's Bingo Museum. I think it's in Main Street from memory. And just down the road a little bit further is his son Mike's bar. It's called Goodfellas. That's worth a look in too. for any of you that may be interested in the occasional tipple, like Spanky. Now remember, this is all wired up, so we can't really twist it around all that easy. It's still in the wiring harness. What Graham's doing at the moment is taking off the side frame by the look of it. Is that what you're doing?
Yeah. It's not in the plans. But,
okay, so he's just loosened the...
There's been a lot of wires that were burnt that we had to fix.
Oh, yeah.
I think our biggest trouble is going to be these screw heads.
On the switches?
Yeah.
So what we're saying, people, is that if we have a close look here, a lot of the screw heads on the switches are very rusty, and that's where we had a lot of trouble before. Now, let's hope that they do come out easily, because that's sort of part of the battle that we're going to have. Now we'll work out a way to systematically get these off so we don't confuse anything. They're all joined together by a common cable, but what we're going to have to look for is bad solder joints and or any broken wires that may be in there. Because it's so cluttered in there, you've only got to get a broken wire and you can have some trouble. Now the good news is a lot of the colours of the wires are still reasonably visible, but it's typical Gottlieb, probably your reds have probably faded and your slates have faded. Now it looks like he's going to try and undo that screw that covers the...
we'll get this rod off.
That bracket off that sort of holds the cables down. That's it there. Oh, let's hope that's not rusted in.
Probably is, but...
It's just unbelievable the amount of rust in this unit. Whoops, it looks like the old gimbal wants to die. So we'll happily go ahead and pull some of this apart, and we'll show you we'll show you our progress. As I said many times before, we don't want to bore you to death by taking many screws out. Yeah, so the gimbal, I thought it was charged up, but it wasn't, so I'll just have to do this by hand. What we're doing now, we're just taking the springs off the armature plates. We decided to have a look at that bracket a little later because it's going to be awkward to get at. So this is once again a fairly simple process. Right, so we're just going to start removing the armatures. Now all you've got to do is just flick them and they come out. Now the thing to do is observe how they come out. There's a little thing on the top where they go. So that's how they come out. See that? Not that way.
They're going to need a good clean.
They're all going to need a clean up, yeah. So here's all the armature plates out now. As you can see, some of them have sort of, that's like more a burn mark than rust. Some have got rust on them. So what we're going to do, we're just going to sit them in a vinegar bath, probably over 24 hours, because we've got all these rusty screws to get out. Now, we've just discovered something. This particular, we gave the owner another target bank frame, and this particular one's got 13 positions on it, but we just worked out the one over here that we're working on is 14. So what we're going to have to do, Spanky counted that when he went to the pub. I don't know. We can't trust that goat anyway. All we're going to have to do is get the old frame out and refurbish that up to a point.
But we can use the other bits.
But that won't stop us. We can use all the other bits. Maybe the reset bar will be a bit shorter too, I think.
It will be.
So we'll have to use the original reset bar.
But we'll clean them up the best we can.
Yeah, so that must have been what happened. But anyway, it is what it is. What we're doing now, we're just getting all the springs off the back of the coils. So all those springs down there, get some focus on that. There they are. Now they won't go anywhere because they're held in by the coil. So they're coming out now. Can you see all that rust down there? We're going to have to now clean that up with steel wool and everything as best we can. And
we'll probably soak it.
Give it a soak. So there you go. So now we've got to try and get these screws out. Now if you look, where can I see that? Let's see. So our next challenge will be taking those screws out that hold the coils down. So we're sort of back to where we started.
I think we'll take these legs
off. But we'll work it out. And we'll show you what we do. So we are making progress here. After a few interruptions this morning with visitors and phone calls, we're sort of getting back into it. What we're doing now, we're unsoldering all the wires off the coils, and you can see the little bit of paper there we've got with the numbers of the wires on. We started from 1 and we're going to go right through. Now the main reason we did that is we do have the schematic here. However, a lot of the wire colours are faded, and to save us any grief a little later on, we thought we'd do it that way. Now the next thing we're going to do is we've pretty well loosened most of the switch stacks. There's one or two that haven't sort of played the game a lot, but we're going to be able to lift all those switches off. We're going to clean them and
replace any switches that are buggered.
If we're checked for spinning pads, we'll use the Dremel and do that. And what else are we going to do, Graham?
Any screws that the screws heads are not real good, we're going to replace.
Yeah, so you can see that one there. Someone's put white paint on that for some reason. It's on one or two of them. I'm not sure why that is, but maybe they came loose or something at one stage of the game. Well, I'll tell you what, they won't come loose now. It's all rusted. So the other thing we're going to be able to do when we get this out is be able to clean the frame that they all fit in. Remember I said, regrettably, we got the wrong one coated.
But we'll use it another game.
Yeah, we'll be able to use that again sometime. Still trying to figure out how that happened, although we do know about that. But yeah, we won't talk about our goat drinking. People think he's got a problem. So it's all going to be a slow old process, and it's all doable. And also this will give us a chance to check all the connections, the solder connections, look for any possibly broken wires. Already in this loom earlier on we found 3 or maybe 4 wires that were bared through close together, and we've repaired those some time ago with heat shrink. I guess this isn't for the faint-hearted, this job. But yeah, cleaning this frame, we hummed and hawed about it. So what the frame we're talking about is this one. That's the one that was plated. But well, hopefully the other one, unfortunately, we won't get it plated because we're too deep into it now. But what we will do is we'll clean it all up. So as you can see, this is a fairly big job. Unfortunately, it's just one of those things that had to be done. I mean, if you ever had to change a coil, one of those bank coils, you would never have done it in the future. Let's hope that no one would have had to have, but, you know, who knows? And the owner wanted a good job done, so, well, I guess we're going to do the good job. some people would probably be, I don't know, maybe a little bit put off by doing this sort of thing. That's probably totally understandable.
Probably a Zelda game.
It looks like a bit of a nightmare. But at the end of the day, it was assembled by man and can be repaired by man.
Or repaired by goat too.
Yeah. But it's just not the sort of job you really expect to have to do. But what is it, 1969 as we say, so that's 50, 69, 70, 4 years, 54 years old. I'm not sure when it was made, but this is the year of, this will be its 54th year, we should say. Alright, so looks like Graham's completed that. Have you got all those out?
I'm taking the feed line off.
Oh yeah, so the common line that runs through the long piece of wire, that needs to come off. It's hooked onto each lug of the coil and joins up to a wire. So that's got to come off as well. And I think I mentioned earlier we have got most of the screws in the coil loose. There's one or two that might be a bit problematic, but they'll be a lot easier to get out when we get all this off. We might have to get the impact driver. What we did, we took a syringe with a concoction of stuff in it. So vinegar, penetrating oil, and what else? Oh, that's what we put in it. And we dropped it down in behind there and just let it soak for about an hour. That did help a little bit, I think. I'm not sure how much it got in there, but yeah, one or two that weren't coming loose before sort of came loose. You just got to try these things, I suppose. I don't know if any of our viewers have got a better idea how to get rusty screws out, particularly in a confined space like these. Please let us know. And while we're talking about that, don't forget to write us a comment, ask us a question about this particular job we're doing if you wish. We're happy to try and answer them. I do try and answer all the comments. Sometimes I may miss one or two. Please forgive me. I only do this on a cell phone or my tablet. I don't have a laptop. Well, I do, but it's not much good anymore, so I don't do anything like that on there. There's Graham looking all serious, getting it off there. Well, he's not getting it off, he's removing the wires. So what we're going to do now, we're going to be undoing a heap of screws.
Try to, anyway.
Yeah, that's right. We're going to attempt that. And we'll take this up again very shortly. It's possibly a little hard to see from here, but this is the common wire that he's removing here. So that's just coming off all the lugs. And we might even replace that with a brand new one, I'm not sure yet.
Yeah, we probably will.
We've got some of that wire that we use, so that might be a good idea while we're on the job. That gives you a better look at the numbers. As I said, some people might say, well, why bother? But, you know, have a look at this wire here for argument's sake. Where is it? No, it's not that one, it's this one. This one goes to a switch. It looks yellow, doesn't it? But it's white and red when you trace it up a bit further. So that's sort of what I'm talking about.
I might do heat shrink that. It's probably got a bad connection or something.
Yeah.
We've done a few there.
Someone's put a bit of tape around that. We've seen that a few times on this, as I mentioned earlier. Where is it? I'll try and show you. Oh, there it is. We had to do all those wires before where they were bared through. So we've probably done that about, I don't know,
a year and a half.
Yeah, over 12 months ago. Look at that, someone silver frosted that switch because it was so rusty. I think we've bought some new switches. I can't remember. The owner's bought a whole pile of parts.
Yeah, but they're them horrible ones with the rods on them. We haven't got none of them, I don't think.
Oh yeah, okay. Yeah.
They're the ones with the pins.
Yeah. So they're a different type of switch.
We might have.
But we might have some.
Oh, we can just put normal switches on it.
Right, so carrying on while we're still repairing the frame, or not repairing it, but cleaning that frame up for the bank, we decided we'd be changing the target switches. Now we've got to do all of them, so we've got new bullseye switches in. As you can see, there's an old one. Now you can't apparently get the ones that are on the right there any longer, so they're just being replaced with the standard bullseye ones. We'll just show you our method of changing them over. Now, one important thing to note, when you have one of those targets, you can see those two dimples there at the top in focus. Not sure, but that's where the switchblade fits between, so the target doesn't move. So what we've got here now, we're going to turn on our drill press, and we're just going to drill the old target rivet out a little bit.
Just enough to get the washer on.
Okay, we've done that. Now what we're going to do is remove the washer.
Comes off.
That little washer there.
And then we've made a hole for the bench.
Yeah, so there's a hole in the bench. Now what he's going to do now is just going to get a punch and lightly punch the new rivet.
And away it goes.
In
That's
there.
the old one.
Give us a look. There, so there's the old one now. Now we've got the switchblade. We're going to polish that up on the grinder.
And just check it hasn't got a spinning pad.
Check that the contact pad's okay. So over he'll go to do that. Just turn that off while he does it. It's noisy. So that's the hole in the bench where we used to punch the old rivet out. Now, he's polished this up. Let's have a look. There it all is, nice and shiny, or as best we can get it, as new looking as possible.
It doesn't have to be. It's only to get the dirt and grease off it.
Yeah. So now what we're going to do, we're going to fit that little rivet on. Now, just show them the rivet there, Graham. There it is. Can you hold it down a little bit lower? There you go. So the rivet's in.
Right, now the bullseye goes opposite to the switch pad.
Now he's just got that in between there, those little
You get that little washer.
nubs I showed you earlier on. So he's got that washer back now that we showed you. Now what he's going to do, he's just going to sit it on the leg of the vise there, and he's going to just lightly punch that down, just to make sure it holds there.
It's mainly so it doesn't fall apart when you get it to the vise.
Makes sense, doesn't it? Now, what he's going to do,
Just goes in the vise and make sure that you're still between those little bits of plastic. Just lightly press it together.
there you go, it's just getting pressed in. Notice we've got a bit of cloth in the vise there to stop damage to the target.
And that's it, done.
There you go, we're done. So there's one side, there's the other. Now what we've got to do is put it back in the machine. I'll just give you a better view of those dimples that I was talking about. You can just see them there to the left and the right, just near the switch. So that's where the switch blade sits, in between there. Now, there's something about this game, isn't there, Graham?
Yeah, it's got, apparently it's got the most stationary targets on any Gottlieb EM machine. I think Michael and myself wrote about it in one of our books. I think it's got 28. I could be wrong, but maybe I'm including the rollover lanes at the top. But very, very unusual. And I remember playing this when I was a kid when it was new, and it was fantastic. All those targets to hit, it was absolutely magnificent. Especially when you got the 300. on the arrow on these targets, and they would alternate. I think it used to go 3, I think, if I remember. What a fantastic game.
Yeah, it is a good game. We had one here a little while back and it was good to play. So now all we've got to do is put the strengthener back on here. That's it there.
The jump on.
Now the jumper goes on there. That's the bit of with soldering, so we didn't have to use the soldering iron here at all.
That makes it so much easier.
It does. Now the target goes back on.
And the Bakelite.
And the Bakelite, and it's ready to be screwed back down onto the frame. So it's pretty simple to do when you get a rhythm going. You know, if you've never done this before, yeah, it may take you a little while to get used to, but
we could probably do the whole in a couple of hours once we got the rhythm up.
Yeah, so we've got to change every target on this game, so it's a fair bit of work.
And once everything's back together and it's in the game, and everything's bolted to the playfield, then you can line up the targets to make sure they're level with the playfield and everything. So it's hard to tell at the moment. You can see that one's a little bit out, but that one could be out as well, so you don't know. So you don't tighten them out too much. Now,
right.
Now on to the next 25.
Yeah, there you go. So a few more to go yet. Now let me show you what we ended up doing with the frame of the bank. So there's the bank. It's been painted with this rust proofing type stuff or paint. We're going to use the plated parts that have already been done. Remember what happened was we gave the guy the 13 coil bank to get plated, and it's actually a 14 coil bank. We got it horribly wrong. There's the inside of it. It looks a whole lot better than it was before. So it is what it is. We've spoken to the owner about it and he said, no, don't worry about getting it painted, it's under the machine. But yeah, we had to get rid of that rust. I went through 3 flapping tools on the Dremel to getting into some of the tight little corners on that. That's the bar that holds the cables. We gave that the same treatment as well. So it's all coming together slowly. Well, here's the completed trip bank assembly. So, as we showed you earlier, we painted the frame, we fitted all the coils, there's some new in there. We've polished all the armatures as best we can on the buffing wheel. I think I said grinder earlier on, that wouldn't work. The actuators have all been cleaned and polished. They're all working well. Now, what we do now, we're going to show you how we're going to fit an actuator while we got this out of the machine, and how we put the armature plate back in. So, Graham will move in now and start this. So, we'll just show you, hang on, show the 2 lugs that are where you're going to put in.
Go through that little
2 lugs go in the little slots there, little holes.
The spring there.
Now, there's a spring down there he's going to hook on. He's putting the spring hook down there now. Remember, they're the springs we told you that have to go on before you put the coil in, because the coil holds them in so they can't possibly come off. These are the springs that pull the actuator. Now, we might have a bit of strife here because we're trying to do this on the bench. It was a bit hard to do it over on the desk where we normally work.
Yeah, we might have to get some light in.
So we'll just get a bit of light here. Oh, that's better. Okay, so he's got that on. So that's the spring that pulls and makes that snap into place. Now, next thing to do is to put the armature plate in. Just before we put that in, Graham, what we're going to do, we're just going to illustrate with the spring hook here. This is the latch just under here. This is where it latches on, this cutaway, and it rests on this little tab here. So here's the armature. He's going to put that in, slide it into the groove at the back. That's in, and hook the spring on. Now remember this, people, this is normally in the machine and it's a little bit more fiddly. So there you go, he's put that in. Now we'll just turn this over and we'll show you the other side. What we managed to do, we've polished all those brass screws. We've run the, we just have to solder that one on now. We'll run the common wire on the coils. There's the back side of it. Now the other thing we managed to find, which was pretty good, we were pretty impressed, managed to find new wing nuts. So I went and bought some of those wing nuts the other day. Now, and the other thing we've found is new screws to hold the switch stacks on, which is pretty good too. Remember, I've said so many times that in Australia we moved to metric, I think in around
73.
Yeah, 73, 74, can't remember exactly. I left high school in 1969 and all we knew was imperial sizes.
Yeah.
So
it was actually the first year that I went to high school, so it was an absolute shocker for me.
Oh, there you go, yeah. So what we find now is that when we want imperial stuff, it's really, really hard to get. But I have found a local fastening place that does carry a bit, and they can get most things you want as long as you know the size. And the good news is, particularly in the case of those wing nuts, they were 1032, I think. I also found the screws, as I mentioned, they're 1/8 BSW, 1.5 inch. So I was lucky to find those, because remember a lot of the screws were all rusted in there. And
the
hence,
heads were buggered. Yeah,
the heads had had it. We had to hacksaw a few of the heads to even be able to get a chance at getting them loose. So we're happy with all this now. So what we're going to do now is start putting this back in the machine. We think this is the best way to go about it. So we're going to leave all that on there, and we're going to slip the switches through and screw them on now. So fingers crossed that we've done the right thing there. How's that for a jigsaw puzzle there?
Yeah.
Hopefully we can get it all back together.
Yeah.
But no, seriously, the way Gottlieb did this it's quite clever. There's 2 layers of switches, more or less. So you've got the top and the bottom, and they're segregated by the common wire that goes through. So that makes it a lot easier. And as I mentioned earlier, yes, we numbered all the coils from 1 to 14. And the main reason we did that is because, as everyone knows, white and red fade and end up looking like slate, and slate fades and ends up looking grey.
But it won't matter, because if we get one wrong, we can just see what trips it, and we can just change the wires around, so it's not a problem if we get one wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. There's the system. So Graham's just soldering on the common wire over there. That's pretty easy work. There's the box of wing nuts. They're size 1032. So now we're up to putting the reset bar on. Now, it's a little difficult to show you, but you just got to get it under there, like Graham, lift it up there and put it over everything.
not too painful.
Yeah, we didn't think to turn on the video to actually show you how we did that, but yeah, it's just a matter of having a logical look at it and just putting it under one end and just slowly lowering it down. Now, in the meantime, we've still got the smaller switches to screw down. The hardware store has just rang about an hour ago and said that the screws are here. I mean, we've got the old screws, but we thought we'd like to put new ones in. So
just got to put the shoulder screws in to hold the reset bar.
Yeah, there's the shoulder screws that go in to hold the reset bar. Now, obviously, when you pull something apart, you've not done it before, always try and have a look and see what's going on. We'll show you the one here on this side in a minute. I can't really get round there where he is. But this hole here is where the shoulder screw goes, right there. You can see all the highly polished actuators there. They're all nice and clean. Wouldn't these look super cool in the factory getting made and all nice and shiny and bright? And I really love that, I don't know, we call it the anodised look. That looks brassy colour almost. That looks really good. Now a nut goes on the inside of those shoulder screws too.
Yeah.
So we'll have to get that on. Now you've got to leave a little bit of play in that. You can't tighten it right up, otherwise the reset bar won't work 100%. We're really happy with this new microphone we invested in. It's been really good. We had to put a little bit more heat shrink on a few. Now here we go. Here's the here it is going on here now. So show the shoulder screw, Graham. Just there it is there. Yeah, okay, so it's just a shoulder screw. Now that goes in and it screws straight into the side of the frame. And this is live, people. If we make a mistake or screw something up, you're going to see it. What have you lost?
I'm just wanting to look at something. I'll let you know.
Now we did screw up, so there you go. We put those shoulder screws in, but we had to put the actual coil brackets in first. They go through the pivot screw goes through those as well. I think this is the second full rebuild of a trip bank we've sort of done. We did one on a big Indian that we sold a few years back, maybe 3, maybe 4 years ago. We pulled it apart. You may remember, I'm pretty sure we did a video on it. We pulled everything apart and cleaned it, and score motor and everything came apart. So we're just screwing the bracket onto the side of the frame. Once again, when he comes around this side, I'll show you.
Like I had Meccano when I was a kid.
I remember I had a Meccano set and I bought what they called an electric kit. And one of the things they had in it was a big dial with numbers on, and you could make a pulse counter. And I considered it a pinball score reel, and I made that. Gee, I don't know, I must have been only 11-year-old or something.
So only a couple of years ago.
Yeah, in the fever of pinball. So the idea there is you get that shoulder screw and it's got to go through the reset bar. So what he's doing now is He's got the nut on the end, and he's just going to tighten that up. We don't seem to have a wrench that size, so that's why we're using a shifter. Right, so here we go with the other side now. So he's going to pop that down, and he's going to screw that frame on. That's the plated one he's working with there. That screws on first. Number 6 screwdriver for that, by the look of it. And the other bit, or other end. There he goes. We won't let him out of camera shot. He started it. That's it, just going in there behind that reset bar. These banks were a pretty good design. And bear in mind, everything had to be made for these machines. Everything had to be designed and then manufactured. And we do know from just stuff we've heard, podcasts from Wayne Nyans and John Osborne and so on, that Gottlieb pretty well made everything in-house. Now we'll put the other shoulder screw in. Now the trick here too is to remember to get the plunger under that bracket. Now he's got that in, and he's just going to get the nut on.
This is the hard bit, getting the nut on.
Yeah, there's a spring, look like it fell off too.
Yeah, I've seen that. Probably expect a few more to come off as well.
Well, yeah, we've done well so far. That's the only one that's come off, but it's easy to put on. Graham, could you just take that away for a sec and just angle that back towards me like you had a moment ago? Yeah, there's the nut there, everyone. Point at the nut, Graham.
Just in there.
Yeah. So that's the nut there, so that's what he's about to tighten up. A little bit awkward to get at, but just get the big duck bills down there and the shifter, and away you go. I know his hand's in the road, but all he's doing is doing up a nut. So, don't think you need a lesson in that.
Yeah, nothing too exciting.
How he's doing? Everyone's bored yet?
I am.
We're almost there. We're almost ready to put the side legs on it, or whatever you call them. Sit it up. I'm just going to show you a little trick that I've used for many years putting springs on. Sometimes you've got to get a spring in a confined space where you've got to sort of angle things off. So what I do, that's a little brass screw I found there. It doesn't necessarily have to be brass, but you screw the spring onto it. Like that. And then you can turn it over, hook it on, grab it with the spring hook, and then unscrew the screw and put it on. So that's just a little trick. I've been doing that for years. So let's put his feet on, or the legs, or it's actually the side frame. This is the bit where there's a nut on one end and the wing nut on the other. Now there's the wing nut he's just about to put in.
I'll tighten that up so it makes it a little bit easier. Starting to look like a pinball machine.
Yeah, now remember this is just sitting on cardboard too, it's not the playfield.
That's not the playfield.
Yeah.
It's got the cardboard and a playfield glass underneath.
Bit of glass, we've had it under there supporting it. Because we pulled this apart ages ago, maybe a year or so ago.
Probably longer. Okay, them ones.
Right, so on goes a washer onto there, and then on goes a nylock nut. I think that nylock nut would be 1032 because that's what the what do you call them? Wing nuts. That's the word I'm looking for. That's what the wing nuts do.
probably have to loosen that later.
Okay, so, and remember these have got to hinge up, so he's doing the other side now. So it's a shame all that new plating had to be replaced with the black frame and the reset bar, but it just couldn't be helped. As we said earlier, we just made a mistake. But anyway, it still looks okay. You don't see it, so it doesn't really matter. So that's all, the other side's all going back on now. That's all coming together, people. Who were those doubting Thomases that said, those guys will never get that back together? Now, who said that? Come on, be honest.
Well, we haven't got it done yet.
Yeah, we're not quite right, as Graham just said, but yeah, we're almost there. All good. All in a day's work for the goat shed. Now, if we don't do it, no one else will, I guess.
Okay.
We've got some people been waiting in anticipation for this to all get done, so the video, so we can show the video, so hopefully this will be a popular video. And once again, people, all we do is we ask that you subscribe to our channel and like our videos, hit the notification bell to get informed when we've got new videos come up. So what we've got to do now is put the coils in. So we've pretty well finished this job now, but we spoke too soon. We did screw up. What we did, we put the brackets that hold the coil cases on the wrong way. They were previously facing toward me. Now, Spanky pointed out that there was no way the wires were going to reach around there, and it was true. And if we look back at the start of our video, we would have saw the nuts, wing nuts were here. So there's 56 new screws gone in the front of that on the switches, and new 1032 wing nuts, as I mentioned earlier. Now, it looks pretty good. Now, just one thing, we posted this on our Facebook page and a couple of other pages, and a few people have said, well, why did you do that? Well, we thought about it for a while. We couldn't quite remember at first, but we did do a video earlier on this, and what it was when we inspected the trip, there was one of them wasn't working properly. One of the actuators was very sluggish in moving, and we discovered that the spring was broken. Now that's the spring that lives underneath the coil that we showed you, that little brass spring. And the reason it had broken, it was rusted. And in fact, all of them were rusted when we looked at it. Now, you don't really want to leave anything like that. I mean, it's not a job that you really want to do, but it's just a necessity. So, because those screws, the brass screws, were all rusted in, you imagine, we're going to be looking after this machine for the rest of its life while this owner's got it anyway, and I'm sure he's going to keep it because it's one of his Grail machines. A couple of years down the track, we've got to go out to his house, where we generally go for this guy, and fix his machine, and there's a burnt out coil in the bank, and we can't get it out. We're going to have to bring the machine all the way home, fix it up. So all we're doing now, we're just adjusting the throw on the plungers for the bank. Graham's just getting that right, so he's just got all the screws finger tight on there.
You can see how it's off skew now, and you just adjust it, and there it's go. It's good to go.
So he's just straightened that up and made it perpendicular with the case.
Just check it a couple of times.
And bang, off it goes.
So we'll trip a couple to see. I think that's pretty good.
Now the idea is to have a fraction of over travel. In other words, when all the actuators are restored to the home position, you just want that little bit of over travel, just a fraction, to get it right. Now another thing, where those screws Graham's doing up there, number 8 slotted screws, a few people wrote in over the weekend that they had trouble getting them out. Yeah, that you can have trouble getting them out, but the thing to use is an impact screwdriver. Now the only thing is, when you do that, you've got to support under that bracket, that L-shaped bracket, this one, with a bit of wood. And for anyone that hasn't seen an impact driver, this is what it looks like. And what happens is they move in and out.
So basically you get it on the screw, support it underneath, and then you give it probably a lump hammer and give it a bash, and it just sort of actuates the screw with a lot of pressure on, just to get it happening, just to get it moving. And you'd be surprised how good it is. It makes a lot of difference.
Now they're available at most hardware shops. I'm sure for all you people in America, you can get them at Home Depot or Lowe's.
I've had this one since the 70s.
Yeah, that's an old looking one.
Yeah.
But it's a very handy tool to have. Same as a spring hook, they're very handy. And I think I've already shown you people my spring screwdriver many times. Oh, there it is there. That's homemade, it's just a bit of shaft with hacksaw blade in it. Pretty good. That's over 50 years old now. So we're just soldering on the wires onto the coils. We have adjusted the switches, and you recall we've cleaned them all. So we can't do much more to it now till we get it in the machine. The only other thing, and I've said this in previous videos, the only other thing is this. Make sure when you tighten those wing nuts down that you get the inside of the frame, which is the black bit there, probably makes it a bit easy to see in this video, the black little lug of the frame there, perpendicular with that. If you don't get those right, the switches may not sit in the correct positions, particularly the end ones, and you'll get all sorts of trouble, all sorts of heartache because you didn't screw it down. And another thing, always check the machines where the ones are under the playfield like this for tightness, because they come loose in transit and they'll fall down. So someone will plug it in and things won't work all of a sudden. Alright, well, largely it's done. So anyone that's watched this video till the end, I think by the time we finished it will have gone for over an hour. It'll be well worth watching. Remember, we also showed you how to change those targets, or how we do it anyway. Other people do it differently.
We've still got a few to go yet.
Yeah, we've got more of those to go. There's Spanky over there having a look at the work. So we've got all this lot in the middle here to do. There, got all those. We've still got a lot of work to do on this game.
But the cabinet's painted.
Yeah, the cabinet's all finished. We've shown you that before. It's all complete now. Oh, it's got to be clear coated with a satin clear coat. We've had a little bit of funny weather here over the last week. We got some rain and sun. But anyway, regardless to say, thanks so much for watching another one of our videos. We greatly appreciate your support. And once again, we remind you to please give us the big thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. So this has been another Goat Shed presentation.